All right. Welcome, Coach.
Thanks, Lee. Good to be here.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
So, this is a really exciting day at Trillium. We have Coach Pearl, most recently from Auburn, joining us. And before I give Coach his introduction, I just want to talk for a second about how I know Coach. And I know Coach through a good friend of mine, Dan Posner, who's in the audience tonight. And I want everyone to make sure they meet at some point and thank for putting this together. Dan, after a career on Wall Street, started a non-for-profit that I've been working with for the last 2 years called Athletes for Israel. And, Dan really believes in the connection that sports brings. In a world where there's a lot of divisiveness and you go on social media and, all the divisiveness stuff sells, guys like Dan are out there saying, no, that's not the world. The world is one where we're more the same. And he wanted to spend his time post his career on Wall Street really promoting that. And that's what Athletes for Israel does. They bring students from schools. Coach has been many times to Israel, taking his teams, people from all diverse backgrounds to Israel to learn about multiculturalism, Western values, and to get a real sense through education, through sports, through camaraderie, and then come back home and once their athletes have seen it, they share it, and the impact goes far beyond the individual trips, and it becomes something that gets widely publicized on social media. So, Dan, someone who believes in relationships over politics, I want to thank you for helping us get this done. I also want to thank all the people behind the camera. This came about at the last minute. This room was a training room on Thursday, and so there's a lot of people that went into getting Coach here and putting us all here. So thank you, Dan. Thank you, team. And now on to Coach. Um, so Coach was at Auburn for 11 seasons, 5 SEC championships, 2 Final Fours, NCAA Coach of the Year, and now is a on-air TV analyst at Turner and CBS. It is a very big deal that Coach has decided to share some of his extremely busy schedule, to share some of his experience coaching and leading men, leading individuals. Coach travels not just the country, but the world, speaking about his leadership experience, really promoting integrity, promoting a strong culture, surrounding himself by people with a strong work ethic, and talking about winning. Coach's courage of conviction is second to none, and we're really, really glad that he's here. So I sat down over the last couple of days and came up with a bunch of questions for Coach, and then I realized I was doing it completely wrong. And I sent out an email to the entire company a day or two ago and said, what questions do you all have for Coach? And I have to apologize to my team because there's no way I'm going to get through all of them, Coach. But I did my best to put them into 4 buckets. People were really curious about performance. They want to know about culture. They want to know about leadership and resilience. And so with that, we'll get started. How's that
Awesome.
sound?
Awesome. And if you're not expecting a great deal, I think you're going to really learn a lot.
We just gave Coach a tour of the trading floor when he said, I call someone once a month and maybe I'll do a trade once in a while.
And he does a great job. And then you got 200 people trading for you. That's sometimes like, kind of blew my mind. You talk about being in, I'm at a disadvantage.
I don't think we'd agree with that. Where we really feel like this sport that we play. I think George Karras mentioned to you when you sat with him on the floor. This sport that we play has sport metaphors that we lean on daily to get inspiration from. So I'm going to start with one question.
Absolutely.
And then I'm going to open it up to the list of the list of questions that we're not going to get through all of.
Great.
At Trillium, we have over 5,000 resumes for less than 50 spots.
Mm.
We get asked questions that I've heard countless times. And last month on the student trek, where we had 30 kids come in to tour the floor, someone asked me a question that I actually hadn't heard before. And I think that you'd be really qualified to help us as individuals, as trainers, as traders, and as leaders to understand how should we think about the balance between focusing on our strengths versus focusing on our weaknesses.
Mm. That's a good question, and there's a lot of different places that you can go. I'm fascinated by 5,000 applicants for 50
less than 50 spots.
lefty 50 spots. That's unbelievable. Um, I'm in the job of trying to pick winners, whether it be coaches, players. Um, and I remember thinking back to your high school or college days, and some of you guys are just, last year, your college days. Um, and I just remembered like when the recruiters would come on campus and we'd do interviews. Um, how do they differentiate between all of us great students at Boston College and the School of Management? Which one are they going to hire? You know, and because like some of them are really smart, great grade point averages, unbelievable in finance, and and different things like accounting whizzes and things like that. I didn't do it for this reason, but when I was a junior, I got an internship with ProKed Stride Right. They competed with Nike, and they actually didn't compete with Nike, but they were a shoe company, and they were trying to compete with Nike. So we created this little program where we'd sell some shoes. The more shoes you sold to a high school coach, you'd give them T-shirts, and we created this little program. But I needed some kids to sell it. So I got some of the very best marketing students at Boston College who are smarter than I am, better GPAs. And I say, hey, I'm starting this company. You need work experience on your resume. I got an opportunity. And so they all, several of them, went to work for Bruce Pearl and Associates. So the very next year, all these companies are coming in and are interviewing all the best students at Boston College. I'm not one of the best students, but I'm one of the guys they're interviewing. And everybody's got Bruce Pearl Associates on their resume. And then all of a sudden, Bruce Pearl comes in to interview. Well, who do you think they're going to hire, right? When these guys figured it out, they all took my name off their resume. And so how do you separate? How do you separate yourself, you know? I believe this. I need dimensions. I don't need every player to be well-rounded, but I need him to be great at something. If you're a good on-ball defender, you got a chance to be a great on-ball defender. If you're a good shooter, you got a chance to be a great shooter. And so I believe that if my players will take the amount of time and work at something they really stink at, they're going to work really hard and become just okay at it. And I don't want that in the game anyways. Take that same time and work on something you're good at and go become great at. And man, we got a dimension. You're a great shooter. You're a great rebounder. You're a great ball handler. You're great looking. I mean, I was just kidding. And well, you can't be great looking unless you're already good looking. You're very good looking. So, you know what I'm saying? In other words, I really believe in, because here's the deal. If you're good at it, you enjoy it. If you enjoy it, you're going to want to work at it. You want to work at it, become great at it. You're going to really. The people that don't like golf aren't any good at it. So why go work at playing golf when all you're going to do is just become okay and you're going to get frustrated, throw your clubs and do something else. So I don't have any idea where that fits. But I really do believe that we waste a lot of time working on stuff we're no good at.
I think it fits.
I don't know.
It's great.
Yeah.
So when I sent out the email, I asked people to tell me what year they started at Trillium. This first question, the first response, was from Howie Titleman, class of 1996. And he wants to know, when you're building a team, how do you identify the difference between someone who may have more natural talent versus someone who's truly coachable especially in a high-pressure environment?
Cream rises to the top at the end of the day. And so if you're wondering, I believe, why sometimes do some teams advance and win at the very end of the day? You've got to have enough talent to be able to run the race. I'm not going to be one of my favorite players that I coached, Tobias Harris, played for the Detroit Pistons, played for a lot of different teams. Tobias has made more money than any non-NBA All-Star in the history of the game. He was from Long Island Lutheran High School. Tobias was a self-made player. Tobias was a grinder, and he was an incredible worker. And he made the Detroit Pistons a lot better because he taught those young kids how to train, how to dress, how to handle what the coach was saying without getting upset at the coach, and interpreted sometimes for the coach because he was a pro's pro. But at the end of the day, in Game 7 against the more talented Cleveland Cavaliers or whatever it was, Tobias was only going to be so good. And every now and then, you just need a freak. You need somebody with a real gift and a real talent. And so my point is, I think you need both. You need both. I know what a freak looks like in basketball, and maybe you do in your industry that maybe don't know a lot of other things, but when it's amazing what they can do in certain either pressure situations or their gift, but they have weaknesses in some other areas. Guess what? I got to find a way to cover up their weaknesses and let them be great where, kind of where they are. So I think I'm not copping out on the answer. You obviously need a little bit of both. I tell my guys, look, hard work alone won't guarantee you success. Hard work alone won't guarantee you success. But without hard work, I guarantee you won't have success. It's your choice. What say you? I like my guys to own stuff they can control. That's something that you can control. How committed you are, how dedicated you are, how accountable you are, how disciplined you are, and I want to work hard. At the same time, my teams were not overtrained because I thought a lot of coaches, particularly young coaches, think the way we're going to beat them is going to work harder than they are. Sports are all about the playoffs. In college basketball, it's March Madness, not November Madness. I don't care about winning the game for the first 30 minutes, but I need to win it in the last 10. I want to be fresh and furious. We talked about this a little bit in the other room. And that is, I need you to be fresh. I need to be furious. Like, I need you guys to take care of yourselves. I need you to get your rest. I need you to watch your health. I need you to prepare yourself to come in. For me, especially as I've gotten older, I will eat dinner, the sun will go down. I'm not long for this world at that. I'm done. I can hardly wait for the sun to come up because I am up with the sun and I am on fire. And I'm ready to go, but I am rested. And if I decide to go out there and do something that night or have dinner or do too much, it affects me the next day. But I got to get up and I got to perform. So I'm a planner and I'm intentional with my rest. I'm a tremendous overeater. And so one of the reasons why I'm not in better shape is not because I don't work out. It's just that I'm a professional eater. Like, I moan over really good food. Sorry.
So that's great. You just answered the next question. So Anthony Picciuto asked about rest and recovery.
All right, there you go.
He started in 2010.
Huge.
So Anthony,
huge.
who I know is on Zoom, we're gonna skip. So the next question, class of 2008, comes from Director of Trading Ben Baller. During last year's NCAA tournament, it's gonna be a tough one, Coach.
All right.
Sorry. We saw Auburn give up a 9-point lead to Florida in the Final Four.
Yeah.
And lose that game.
Right.
Trillium last month had a similar moment where many traders were up big. Maybe the biggest some of the traders in this room have ever seen. And gave everything back and ultimately lost money. What did you say to your team in the locker room after such a tough loss? And how would you use that game as motivation and a learning lesson going forward?
Well, the answer is really simple for me, and I don't know who you were up against. Did you guys play against Walter Clayton?
Nope.
Where are my Gators?
Yeah,
Right?
they're
Where are
right
my
there.
Gators? Um, Florida was better than us. They were bigger than us on the front line. They had 3 guards that got drafted. 3 guards. And they had 4 frontline players that all returned this year. And by the way, 3 of them are returning again this year. And their front line was where they were best. And they had 3 NBA guards. I had a good team. I had 1 player get drafted by the 76ers. They were just so my biggest thing is always this. I know my talent. I know my ability. I want to achieve what we're capable of achieving. I do, truly. And I felt like we had a chance to get to the Final Four. And we did. We went to Atlanta. We played Michigan, Michigan State. We were better than them. We beat them both. We got to Florida, and we were up 10 at halftime. And, but I will say this. While I'll give Florida credit, and we couldn't stop Clayton, for the first time. Did you guys watch the Arizona-Michigan game in the Final Four this year? Arizona-Michigan was supposed to be a great game, 2 best teams. Michigan got off to a great start, and Arizona never recovered. They panicked. They got away from what they did. They tried to get it all back really quickly. They stopped being the more physical team in the league in the game, and it made it worse. We panicked a little bit in the second half against Walter Clayton. And I don't know if you did or not. Momentum is really something in our game. And that's obviously that's what happened in our game. And that's how we got away. I don't know that we were going to learn anything from that loss. I was really proud of our guys for doing what they did. Everybody wants to take a look at, I'm not trying to make sense of it, but Duke has lost in the Final Four or in the NCAA tournament the last couple of years. I mean, really horrific losses. And everybody wants to blame John Shire, the head coach Duke, for his inexperience, and this is why, these things happen. A year ago when they lost to Houston to play before the Final Four, they had a big lead, and the lead got down to 6 or 8. But all year long, they'd been dominant in the ACC, and there was no competition. You mean to tell me that when you guys built that big lead, there was no competition? It was easy? Was it easy when you built that big lead, when you were way ahead? The ACC made it easy. All of a sudden, it got down to 6 or 8. And Duke should not have panicked. They were still up 6 or 8. They were fine. They stopped guarding. This year, they're playing UConn. They're way better than UConn. And everybody wants to talk about the last play. They came out of halftime, and this is where I think I can help you. Success will change you sometimes. Success will change you. If there's one thing that bothers me about some successful people is all of a sudden, some successful coaches. They think they've cured cancer. Just because they've won some tournaments, games in basketball. We coach kids to put a ball in a bucket. Really? You're gonna think, and they think they're God, or they think James Naismith, they invented the game. Success will change you. I want to be confident. I want to be prepared, but I want to have a real healthy fear of failure. And I want to be judged. I want to be judged based on what I just did, not what I've done before, and not what I'm going to do tomorrow. And that's why I'm relentless. That's why that would be the word to describe me. So Duke was not prepared because they hadn't played any close games in the ACC, and they got scared, and then they lost. And then they're killing UConn in the first half this year, killing them. And they went at halftime, and they thought they could come out, it was going to be easy. They stopped guarding. They stopped being physical. It wasn't the last play and that miraculous shot that cost them the game. It was 18 minutes beforehand where they stopped doing the basics of guarding, of defending, they were all of a sudden they got selfish and they started taking some bad shots early in the clock that they weren't to. Why wouldn't you take a bad shot? You're up 18. And got away from what they did. That was a good answer, I think.
I think I think
That was because I didn't realize it was gonna. It took me 20 minutes to get there,
I'll show
but
you. I'll
it's
show you.
true. That's what happened. That's what happened to him.
It's exactly what happened to us.
Is that right? Wow.
You described it to a T.
Wow.
Success does change you. All right. From the class of 25, just started 7, maybe 8 months ago now. Ethan Tuvlin wants to know, how do you know when to trust your preparation in a game versus just trusting your instincts?
So good. That's such a great question. Um, I'm a preparer. I am. And what I do is I will play the game before the game's played. I'll study the film. And one of the things I like to do, like let's say it's a short prep and you're in an NCAA tournament. What I want my staff to focus on is watch the game they lost or a couple games they lost. What was it about those games that caused them to lose? Watch a game or two where they win. What happens is you want to watch all the games where they're being successful. Like, I know why they were successful, but why did they lose? And then what can we do that the teams did that beat them to beat them again? And oftentimes I will be correct. The other thing about early game situations, and this is very true of football offensive coordinators, the first several series, I'm going to run some stuff to see how they're going to guard. I want to see how they're going to guard. I'd love to score, but I really am going to benefit more by watching their reaction to what I'm doing, to know what their plan was. And I'm evaluating it. Sometimes it works. We get a big lead. That's fine. But if we don't, it's okay because I'm still learning what they're doing. I love a continuity and I love counters to the continuity. Right, now I know what you're going to do. I've got stuff ready to take advantage of what you're doing. You go in at halftime. If it's working or not working, we've got to have a plan to play differently at halftime. Sometimes, but not all the time. I want to be unpredictable. If I'm always doing the same thing, they'll predict, oh, he's going to change up. He's changing defenses out of this timeout. And if I know you're going to change defense out of the timeout because that's what you do, then I'll be ready with that. I'll be ready. So being unpredictable in what we do is really important. There's a balance, Lee, between preparation and instinct. Certainly, I think experience, I think, does matter. But I think there's obviously got to be a blend. I've learned a lot because of the mistakes that I've made, and I think sometimes what I'd like to try to do is I'd rather learn from my success than from my failure. And so while I celebrate, I really do break down why were we successful, and let's try to learn from that. Here's the other thing that happens. Kids, they will learn always more from their failures. The kids will always learn because when they win, they're not thinking about learning. And I'm trying to teach them when they're learning. The other thing that I do from a management standpoint, when we're winning, I'm an asshole. I'm an asshole when we're winning. And when we're not, they think I'm going to be insane, and I'm chill. I want to take some pressure off of them. We'll be all right.
All right.
All right?
This is unbelievable. So
Great questions.
the lot of performance coaching here, a lot of thinking about habits, big and small, that people can do to incorporate into their lives. So Jeremy Balkowitz, and I share the years with you because I'm very proud of the team we have here. Both the fact that we have people from the 90s, as well as and I want to really make sure I showcase everyone. So Jeremy's from the class of 2017. And he wants to know, what was the most, for whether it's teammates, coaches, in your experience, the most underappreciated habit or process, sleep optimization, nutrition, performance coaching, etc., that if more widely applied would have made your teams even more successful than they already were, or things that you've brought in
Yeah.
that really had an impact?
I don't know if this is possible for you guys. I don't know. Do you guys know each other at all? Do you hang out at all?
Oh yeah.
Do you go out? I think that's great. I think it's really good. My best friends were my staff. They had my back, I had theirs. I knew their wives, I knew their kids. I felt the responsibility for their families, our success, our failure. Misery, by the way, loves company, you know? And if you think about it, your life's most joyous moments, and trust me, you young guys or young ladies, you haven't had your greatest moments yet. They're about they're gonna come. But chances are when you had them with your family, whether it be the birth of a child or a marriage, or for me, winning a championship, I'm doing it with my son. I'm doing it with, with my whole family. And that's what makes them all. And so you guys are spending all this time away from your families, trying to provide for yourself and to provide for your families a better life. Think about all that you're giving up at home to make it better for them at home by being in here. It's a lot. And so I really felt like, because sometimes the enemy, not that it would be, sometimes the toughest opponent on the schedule is yourself, not the competition. Like I respect everybody in the SEC, but I talk dirty about them to my players with bad language. Like, because it's us against them. The opponents are trying to break into my house and take my stuff. They're trying to date my daughter. That ain't happening. And I want to have that so that we just rely on each other, trust each other, help each other. So here's the other thing too, and this is important. Those of you that are really, really good at what you're doing right now, really, really good. And I don't know if it applies in this business or not. Um, every now and then, somebody let me dummy it down to kids. If you're the best player on a team, and one of the guys that's coming off the bench, that's fairly new, comes in and he takes a bad shot or he makes a bad pass or he turns the ball over, how you handle that moment is going to determine what's going to happen for that kid the rest of the game and maybe even for the season. Guess what? You might need him. You're going to get in foul trouble. Something's going to happen. And in a bad moment, if you can be encouraging and supportive, think about this yourself as an athlete at some point. If the best kid of the team looked at you glaring eyes and you're done. But if he pat you on the back and say, hey, don't worry about it. Let's get back. Let's get a stop. Don't worry about it. Let's get a stop. Let's get the next one. You're like, let's get the next one. That's done. Let's get the next one. So as the best players, you got a responsibility. Not being the best players, you got a choice. You can quit. You can let all that self-doubt get in there because you're not performing the way you want to perform. Or you can stay right and you can stay ready. Stay right and stay ready. And that's not easy. But if you can do it, you just put yourself in position for God to bless you and for great things to happen. Stay right, stay ready.
I think I just renamed our training curriculum. Let's get the next one.
Let's get the next one. Let's get a
To
stop.
all the trainers out there, that's what we want you saying to your trainees. So Barry's, you met briefly as the CEO here. He's been working for me and with my family for over 30 years. He didn't write his start year. He just wrote 30 years plus, which he's entitled to. He wants to know, Coach, the highest performing people seem to develop an instinctive ability to shift from an individual mentality, an I mentality, to a we mentality. I think this touches on what you just said. What coaching techniques have you found most effective in helping elite athletes understand that their greatest impact often comes not only from their own performance, but from the ability to elevate the people around them and strengthen the collective success of the team?
Yeah. So this team understands that when we are successful, you as an individual will benefit far more than if you as an individual are successful, but the team fails. I always voted for the MVP of a league, the best player and the best team, not the best player. In my mind, Michael Jordan was the best of all time because not only was he either the best player or one of the best players, I'm not going to argue that, but his teams were the best. Who else could get Dennis Rodman to show up, defend and rebound, and not get thrown out of a game or get in a fight other than Michael Jordan? If you look at the Bulls, I coached B.J. Armstrong. Paxton was a great shooter. Cartwright was at the end of his career. Bill Winnington, really? I mean, yeah, Scotty, huge, huge, huge help, no doubt. And somehow keeping Scotty there, not being Jordan put it all together. Jordan was able to get it done. I was National Coach of the Year because we got to the Final Four. I've had better teams. I've had better years coaching myself, but my team took us there, and I was recognized. And so I try and provide. And okay. Oh, by the way, Janai Broome got drafted. Cardwell signed a contract with Sacramento. He's now got a 4-year deal. Miles Kelly went to Dallas on a 2A. Chaney Johnson, who was a D2 player as a sophomore in high school, played for me for 2 years, signed a 10-day contract, a 2-way contract with Cleveland, and actually got several 10-day contracts with the Brooklyn Nets at the end of the year. I had 5 guys playing in the NBA after a Final Four year because we were successful. Every NBA guy. And why? They were watching us play. They saw us because we kept on playing when all eyes were watching us in March. And a lot of great players, they were done the second week in March during the conference tournament. And so you got to set up ways when your team is going to be rewarded when the team wins rather than an individual winning. That's for you guys to do.
Great. Thanks, Coach. All right. So we talked about culture. We talked about some performance, some questions about leadership. This comes from Brian Ingram, class of '99, one of the managers on the New York trading floor. How can I coach someone out of bad habits? They know it's affecting their performance, but they can't seem to stop themselves from repeating the same mistake day after day.
Yep. Practice makes permanent. It does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent. So when we have basketball camp, we have contests. And I want the kids to put the ball in the basket the best way they know how, because we're keeping score and they might get a trophy. But we're in station work and we're in drills and we're not keeping score, I mandate that they do it the right way. Well, they can't. The ball's not going in because we're changing their shot. We're raising their elbow. We're putting their hand in position the right way. We're getting their offhand where it's supposed to be. We're getting everything lined up wherever it's supposed to be. They can't put it in ocean. If they could do it like this, ball's going in because that's how they've been practicing it. That's not going to work in the long term. It may in the short term. So if there's an opportunity to break those habits, the reason why they're breaking those habits is because they're used to it, they're comfortable with it, it's been good enough, but it's not going to get them to where they go. You got to somehow create an opportunity for them to try it differently and stay with them when they're not having success, and then they'll eventually surpass where they were, at some point. I think the other thing, too, that's interesting about this, look, I can't help but notice all the youth in the room. You guys haven't developed bad habits yet. You don't have a lot of bad habits yet. And so that's good. That's a good thing, because it's harder to teach an old dog new tricks.
So we're going to open up to a couple questions in a minute. I have 1 or 2 more. How are we doing on timing? Good, everyone? So we do get a lot of applications for this job.
Yeah.
And Nate McWilliams, class of 2018, says, if you have 10 recruits, roughly similar skill levels, what questions would you ask if you were trying to determine their ability to maximize their potential?
I think toughness Both mental and physical toughness are separators. I think they're game chasers. I can't teach you how to be tougher, but I sure can expose it when you're not. And so that's a quality I think that is important. Um, I think honesty, um, the truth is a great quality to have, because I don't have to look, I am wrong a lot, but to the best of my ability, I'm honest. I'm gonna tell you what I think. I don't have to I can't tell you what I had for lunch today because 'cause I'm 66 and my memory's going. But I don't have to think about what I told you. I don't have to, because 'cause I'm not telling you anything 'cause I think you wanna hear it, which is a lie. I'm just gonna tell you what I think. It doesn't make me right. And I also think that sometimes, like, for example, like in recruiting, for me, I would underpromise and try to overdeliver. If you bring somebody in, you're gonna tell them, "It's gonna be this, and it's gonna be this, and it's gonna be this," to get them in recruiting, and then all of a sudden they come in, and it's not that, and they get disappointed, and they think you maybe were selling them on a rose garden. Look, it's no picnic playing for me. It is, but I don't want them to think it's going to be. I remember when Pat Summitt, I had the great joy of working with her very, very closely, both when she was on top and when she began to decline with her dementia. And she had a couple of incredible qualities. One of them, she created a brand. It's called the Lady Vols. And with that came an expectation. I mean, you better represent the name on the front of your jersey. You better represent the Lady Vols. This is what you signed up for. You knew when you came to play for me what I was going to expect of you on and off the court. And it wasn't about your basketball. It's about becoming a young woman and all that goes with it. And so there were some people that didn't want to play for Pat because of all that. She would try to scare them off. And then when they came in, it was different. She also believed that you can coach them as hard as you love them. You coach them as hard as you love them. My son, Steven, who played for me for 6 years and then also coached me for 11, was almost my interpreter. He would say to the guys, because if you ever watch me coach, I'm yelling, I'm screaming, I'm losing my mind. Listen, don't pay any attention to how he's saying it, but listen to what he's saying, right? It's like the Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
Who was more nervous, you painting the V, the big orange,
Right?
or
Pat singing Rocky
Pat
Top.
singing? Yeah.
I was a little bit more nervous, but I'll be honest with you. In addition to getting painted up, I did go in the weight room. I did some push-ups. I did some curls. Everything was. I was like the Incredible Bulk.
What was that? 2017.
Whenever it was, I don't remember. Well, I did one at Auburn. I was in the stands at Auburn during a football game, and that might have been Cam Newton came in there with me, and I was kind of got a shot like this. My wife's like, "Honey, America's seen enough of that body. It's not
Time to put it away.
It's enough. It's time to put it away. It's time to put it away."
What's your thoughts on the NIL?
The NCAA was ignorant and arrogant for not paying the players sooner. I'm old school. I believe in tuition room board, books, and fees. I'm old school, but let me tell you something. The average, like, what's the number one watch sport in America? And it's by far
NFL.
NFL, no question. All right. What's number two?
Anyone want to guess?
Baseball.
Nah.
Baseball,
College
college
football.
football,
That's it? Anyone else?
baseball,
Basketball. College basketball.
college basketball, the NBA,
It's college.
hockey. It's college football. It's college football. The NFL's got by far the best television package. College football's like sixth, and it's the second most watched sport. The NBA, Major League Baseball, hockey, they've got bigger deals. Because we don't unify our media rights in the ACC and the Big East and the Big Ten, we all go get Fox and ESPN. Everybody gets a little bit. We're leaving a ton of money on the table. There are ever issues. But here's the deal. The average NFL football roster with fewer guys on the roster is $300 million. The average really good college football roster last year was about $30 million. Now, I know you're saying to yourself, $30 million for a football roster, that's ridiculous. We couldn't pay him $1 a few years ago. $30 million. It's the same game however many minutes they're playing, how many games. In fact, in college football, the stadiums are holding 80, 90, 100,000 people. In the NFL, there are 50, 60,000 because of the suites. There should not be that big a gap in what we're paying NFL players versus college players. Why are they worth that much? Because the market says they are. And yet, somehow we can't do it because we've never done it. So that's the gap, and that's a real problem. The long and short of the problem with NIL and college athletics right now is this. When Ed O'Bannon was watching and playing with a friend, and they were playing Xbox or, one of the old basic EA Sports, some kind of game, and there's UCLA and number 31 and a really tall, really dark skin, left-handed player who looked just like Ed O'Bannon. Well, it was Ed O'Bannon. And the kid says to him, he says, man, you must be making a fortune off this. And Ed says to his buddy, I'm not making anything off of this, whatever. The kid's dad is an attorney. And they say, hey, Dad, you know that he's not making anything of this? What? And that's how the whole thing got started. And then the guy says, you know what, this is wrong. And when they took the NCAA to court, or whoever was to court, they fought it. And they lost every time to the point where it was, 9-0 at the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. Don't come back. It's a huge antitrust violation. We should have made the adjustment back then, and we didn't make that adjustment. We're, again, ignorant, arrogant, late to the party. So as a result now, every NCAA rule, transfer, years of eligibility, any rule you could think of, because it wasn't either collectively bargained or it wasn't agreed upon or it's against they're losing every time they go to court. So there's got to be a change. It's got to be three things that have got to happen. Because there are no rules. There's free agency every year, transfer every single year. And back in the day, the NCAA was established to let everybody basically play by the same rules. Some of us cheated better than others, but everybody basically played by the same rules. That's completely out the window now. It's gone. So either Congress acts to change the laws, and I believe the way to do it is to give the student athletes some limited, a different class. They're not employees, they're not students, they're somewhere in between, and allow us another shot at doing what's best. We're not going to pay them like we play the NFL because they've got to go to school, they got to get trained, there's housing, there's insurance, there's medical, they're not all going to make it, we can pay them less. But we got to fund the women's sports, we got to fund the Olympic sports, the college system is like anywhere else in the world, and it's worth saving. What Ted Cruz has proposed, and I've got to talk to him about this again because he wants me to completely support him. I don't want the government running intercollegiate athletics, but we need some help. Or the third thing is the Congress says we can't touch it, we can't do anything of it, and then what's going to happen is, let's say the Congress won't do anything, then the conference commissioners and the NCAA got to get with student athletes and some form of representation and say, guys, we got to sit down, we just got to agree, come up with something to agree to. And we bargain like the NFL, the NBA, and if they do that. So one is collective bargaining without loss changing. Two is Congress getting involved in running it. Or three, which I prefer, is some limited liability protection, trust us to do a better job. This time, compensate the student athletes, but not blow the whole thing up.
Something that's near and dear to my heart, and we can talk about this offline, is building financial confidence in those students.
Yep.
Once they start making money, because I want them to get paid. I think it's ridiculous. You can buy, how many jerseys did Cam Newton sell? Wasn't he like the number one jersey?
And he got nothing for Johnny Manziel and Cam Newton.
Nothing.
They got nothing for it.
Right.
It's wrong.
So on the one hand, I want them to make the money.
Right.
On the other hand, I want them to keep the money.
Right.
And between agents, taxes, family, friends, etc., that's not easy.
Well, the deal is this, and we all have recognized this. It's not how much you make; it's how long you can make it. It's not how much you make; it's how long you make it. What we forget about with an NFL player or an NFL running back, the average life expectancy of an NFL running back could be 4 or 5 years tops, and they're done. That's not a whole lot when you think about how many years we can work for 50 or 60 years at what we do. And so, and yet when they get it, they're spending it like crazy. And so we're working really hard with the education. We are, but
Yeah.
that's why there are so many broke athletes, because they can't work at that trade for very long.
I have 100 more questions, and I'm sure that some members of my team are going to be upset I didn't pick theirs. But I think it's long past due if anyone in the audience wants to ask any questions of Coach.
So, in your personal opinion, do you think that the New York Knicks or the San Antonio Spurs will win the championship?
You know what? I think I'll learn a lot from game one. I mean, the Knicks did well against them during the season. They struggled against OKC. Both teams have got great depth. Brunson at the end of the game still going to be the best player on the floor and the most dangerous guy. So if it's a close game, I think the Knicks can. Will Karl Anthony Towns be able to? If he plays great throughout the series, the Knicks can win. If he doesn't play great, either making shots inside and out, I think the Knicks could struggle a little bit offensively. But I love how both teams are built. They're both deep, and they both rely on their bench. And I think in addition to Towns, I think both teams have got enough depth and bench that it's going to be the other guys that are going to win it. Some of the guys coming off the bench are the ones that are going to win the games and make the difference.
It's a great question. I just want to hear what Coach's answer was if we were sitting in San Antonio. Anyone else have questions for Coach?
My name's Grayson. I've been here 18 years. I grew up in Syracuse, Jim Boeheim guy. My girlfriend went to Alabama. So I've seen you on the big screen a lot. You're an intense guy. You know this game inside and out. And I guess when it comes to managing players and performance, like what we don't see in the game in practice, the mix of positive to negative reinforcement, like when I train my traders, I don't think in 18 years I've actually made fun of them for like a losing trade.
Right.
I will get on them if they kind of give up on something that they should have done a lot better on.
Yeah.
So like, how do you manage that in practice and just from like a practitioner standpoint? How do you manage that mix and when you might, push on the gas positively or negatively, and just talk about that thing?
Yeah. It's so much easier to teach out of defeat or mistakes or failure, because I made a mistake, so you can correct them. And it's harder to teach necessarily on a positive, but because I am pretty passionate, okay, I'm going to react to something as simple as an offensive rebound. Like, you think I'm going to react on a made three, or I'm going to react on some spectacular play. I'm going to react on an effort and an energy play, something that can control, reward that behavior. So Johnny's going to want to do it again and again and again. And knowing that I have the ability to also beat Johnny down by being too critical of him, and then he's going to just second guess and lose confidence and trust. I've got to see something in him he doesn't see in himself. And so I will lean towards being a little bit more, positive. I think the other thing is this. Everybody learns differently. Okay. Some guys, you need to sit down and you need to watch film with them one-on-one. Some guys can learn watching film in front of 10 people. Some guys watching film with team, they're back there asleep. Don't fall asleep in my film session. I will throw something at you. And some guys can watch film and not learn anything. Some guys need to actually walk onto the court and walk through things to see the spacing and the timing. Some guys, you need them to draw it out. Like, you can't remember a play. You need to just draw what everybody else is doing on the floor. Draw it out. So my job as a trainer, as a teacher, was to say the exact same things 3 or 4 different ways. Some people want to see it. Some people want to do it. Some people want to watch it. And so I got to say the same thing, but use those different, teaching modes. Last thing I would say is this. I don't treat them all the same. I treat them all fairly. I have 4 kids. I don't treat them the same. I treat them fairly. They all have different abilities. They all have different strengths. They all have different talents. And so they say, well, you love him more than you love me because you treat them differently. I will never, oh, no, I treat you all the same. No, I don't. I don't treat you the same. You don't all treat me the same. But I promise you, I'll treat you fairly. And try and treat you the way I think you're going to respond the best. And so if you're sitting next to somebody who, well, why aren't you praising me as much as you're praising the person sitting next door. Maybe because I feel like that person needs it more than you do right now. Doesn't make me right. But I don't try to treat them all the same.
So we're going to do one more question, and then Coach was kind enough to agree if anyone wants some photos, hang out for a bit and do it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, so we'll do a final question. Do you have the mic there?
Yeah.
Oh.
All right.
Maybe we'll do two. We'll see. You guys aren't
Go ahead.
whistle for it.
Do two, and I'll be shorter.
Yeah.
So you talked about like leaning into like what you're most talented at. How do you sort of, as like markets change, and, like the game changes away from what you're talented at, how do you like keep focusing on what you're like best at, what you're most talented at, when like the game was changing away from your strengths and going through cycles where the game wasn't where your
Correct.
strengths were?
Yeah, so the ability, that's the other thing with Pat Summitt. She had an incredible ability to learn. I have an ability to learn, stay on top of things, watch others. You know, I'm not afraid of copying. But the thing that you got to get away from is this, especially with young coaches. You're going to look at what's working, and you're going to try this and try this and try this because it's working, and you put it all together and it doesn't work. What's your system? You can beg, borrow, and steal, but if you're beg, borrowing, and stealing everything, you put it all together, it doesn't work. What I did was I specialized. I have an offensive coordinator. I have a defensive coordinator. Have you ever heard of that in basketball? It's becoming a trend now. I've been doing it for 10 years. Like, everybody wants to watch the game. And when I watch the game, they all want to watch the ball. I don't need 10 eyes on the ball. I need 2 eyes, sometimes 4. But I need a pair of eyes watching every rebounding situation, but offensively and defensively, off the ball. I need to watch off the ball screening. I need to watch the fast break. I'll worry about the point guard and the outlet. I need one coach watching the guards run the lane. I need another coach watching the rim runners, and I need to watch somebody else watch the trail. So I want to assign other people's responsibility. And so when we fail in a particular area, I turn to Lee and go, what the, I have somebody to hold accountable to something, not the whole thing. I'm responsible for the whole thing, but I want them to sort of specialize. The other thing is this. Here's my also part of my management style. It doesn't necessarily answer your question, but I think it's important. I like to, one of the things that I do is I ask my players a lot of questions like you're asking me. All right, give me your starting 5. Give me the backup at every position. I have 13 guys on scholarship. Who's our best player? Who's our 13th best player? You have any idea how long that takes them? They got to rank themselves and their friends where they see themselves. That's interesting when they put themselves in. Sometimes they have absolutely no clue on either end. Usually they rank themselves too high, but no idea. But I want to know what they're thinking, because guess what? They know who can play and who can't play, who gets the last shot, who defends the best player, who gets to date your girlfriend or date your sister. Nobody gets to date their sister. Or you find out there's always one guy on the team that everybody says he can date my sister. The rest of these guys can't. I learned so much by asking these questions. What about love? What are you worried about? I ask coach, what are you worried about? And sometimes, it's, and I want to know what they're worried about. And all of a sudden they learn that somebody at home has cancer, or there's a financial need, or they're just worried about whether or not they're good enough to play. And I take notes. And I also tell my staff, look, sometimes I also didn't want to be the head coach to the point where they had to go to the assistant coach all the time. But oftentimes they'll tell a manager something, hoping it gets to the boss. But the manager doesn't want to lose the confidence of the person, so they'll keep it to themselves. He wants you to tell the boss. That's why he's telling you. And then when the boss doesn't respond to what his concern is, he's like, I told the manager, and the boss is still treating me this way. There's got to be, obviously some communication. There's got to be, some trust. I ask them to make hard decisions, and because they also recognize it's not so easy on me. I think the third thing is, I do think the right hires of the next people. We got a foundation. We've been together a long time. It's great to be proud of that. And I think that's been our secret sauce. I've rewarded from within. I've promoted from within. I've taken good care of my people that have been good. But we'll bring in a specialist. from time to time, and it really brings us life. It brings us knowledge, and we empower them. So I need to stay on top. I would like to think, and if you want to know why maybe I stopped coaching really recently, it's just because at 66, I wasn't on top of my game. I was obviously good enough to be at the Final Four my last year. There were other things I wanted to do, but I began to recognize that I wasn't maybe as sharp as I was a few years ago. I didn't have the energy that I had quite a few years ago, and I wanted to leave on top. And I felt like, all right, for those of you guys that wanted a piece of me, you want some of this, you had 30 years to get it. If you didn't get it and you got your ass beat, you're not going to have another shot at this. I'm done. I'm out. I'm done. I'm out. You had a question? Good.
Thanks for coming, Coach.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about like momentum earlier, which is actually like a big thing in trading as well. Stock could have momentum, but also like there's kind of emotional momentum that we go through. So for you, I guess like for positive and negative momentum, like, the building's rocking, your guys are hitting threes. Like, how do you approach that versus, being on the other side of it?
Well, like sometimes if it's happening in the first half, you never want there to be halftime. Like you don't want there to be halftime because all it's going to do is end the momentum. The other guy gets in there, and all they got to do is make 3 buckets, and all of a sudden it's 6, or it's now it's a close game or whatever it is. You just got to ride the wave, ride it as long as you possibly can. Don't be satisfied with any lead. Like don't be satisfied. Keep pressing. Build on your lead. And that way, if you ever do come back a little bit, now you're not in jeopardy of losing the game. So ride that momentum and don't change it. Be relentless. Just like sharks in the water. Like sharks, there's a little blood. You gotta have a feeding frenzy. And because you're gonna go through some time when there's just no bait. There's no bait fish, there's no fish. You have been out there, all of a sudden you're fishing and the wind stops blowing, it's calm, it starts to get hot and nobody's biting. Whereas sometimes you throw it in the water and just reel it in. And so, but you know what? On days that you didn't catch any fish, still a nice day, still had a little breeze, the sun was still shining. You got up this morning, and you're going to get up tomorrow morning. It's a new day. And be grateful. Be grateful. Be grateful for the opportunity. Be blessed. I want to be around energy gainers, not energy drainers. And I want you to plug into me. I want you to plug into me. At the end of the day, I go home, I'm tired. Like I can fall asleep in 30 seconds because I'm exhausted. But I can hardly wake up the next day and get ready to do it all over again. And whatever happens, happens. I also get asked the question, can you sleep at night after a loss? I'm exhausted. I go right to bed. But because I'm older, I got to piss at least 2 times a night, sometimes 3. And so the problem is, you know what I mean? So you know exactly what I'm saying. And so the problem is at like 3 o'clock in the morning. So for those of you that follow me on X, I do my best work between like 3 and 6 o'clock in the morning because sometimes now I'm thinking about the game. Now I'm thinking about the trade. Now I'm thinking about what I did. But at first, man, I'm done. So I hope in some ways some things obviously resonated. I love sharing, the things that we're doing. And Lee, I'm grateful for you having us. And Lee is a supporter of Athletes for Israel. I work for Athletes for Israel. I'm a volunteer for Athletes for Israel. And so we appreciate the connection. We appreciate the support. And if anybody's got a tip for me, I'm all ears.
Coach was worried if anything that he was going to say was going to have an impact today. I'm left.
Cool.
I just keep telling myself, well, I'm definitely humble. Keep telling myself, don't say anything. I love talking. I feel like sometimes I get paid by the word. and I was just sitting here. This is the least I've said in an hour in my life, maybe. And Coach, it was absolutely extraordinary having you here.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.